Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Christopher is going to be teaching you how to play what's popularly known as Here Comes the Bride. Now, I, for one, am guilty of only thinking of this song as da 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 da, ba 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 ba, right? That main melody that we all know and love. So I was pleasantly surprised, and I think Chris was too, when we listened to the entire composition and we found out that the rest of it was as awesome sounding as that main melody. Now, I did get a chance to play through this entire arrangement, and I gotta say that it looks a lot harder than it actually is to play. So I want to go ahead and state that right off the bat, because you all just watched the performance. It looks a lot harder than it really is. And I go ahead and say that this is a great piece for the intermediate player. Maybe a little bit more seasoned intermediate player, but it's not super duper difficult to play. So with that in mind, let's take a step back and let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Christopher is going to be teaching you how to play the entire song. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Bridal Chorus. You can even type Here Comes the Bride. That should pop up the lesson page as well. Now also on the page will be the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Chris to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hello friends, this is Christopher Davis Shannon with Rock Class 101, and today I'm going to walk you through how to play an arrangement of Wagner's Bridal Chorus, which most of us know as the song Here Comes the Bride. So let's take a look at this little 4-bar introduction, which sounds a little bit something like this. So most of this is just a big old G7th chord, and we are building it up over the course of 4 measures. So we're going to start out with parallel octaves. So the 7th fret of your C string, which is a G, and then the 10th fret of our A string, which is also a G, but an octave higher. Now, while you're playing this, you need to mute both the E string and the G string. The G string I'm muting with my middle finger like this, and my first finger is just lightly touching the 7th fret of the E string so that I'm not getting any noise out for these first 3 notes. So we have our little rhythm, our Here Comes the Bride rhythm, which is used throughout the entire piece. So our first measure is just 3 strums on this. All right, that's our first one. And then as we hit that next one, we're going to add in the B on the 7th fret of our E string and start building up this G7th chord. So as we hit 2 strums, just quarter notes in that second measure, we're now going to hear this as a G major chord instead of just octaves. So our first 2 measures will sound like this. Hear how we're building up the chord here. And then we're going to have one last chord, and we're going to make this a big old G7th chord. This is going to be open 5, 7, 10. A little bit of a reach for the tenor players amongst us, but worth it. It's a good voicing. So our little introduction is going to sound like this. And we can let this ring out for 2 measures as it's notated, or we can pretend that there's a fermata over top and hold it out for even longer if we'd like. Let's try that intro together. 1, 2, 1, 2. The main theme of this piece starts at the very beginning, and this is the line that we are most familiar with. We're going to dive into it a little bit. There is actually a beautiful B section to this song that doesn't always get played, depending how long the aisle is that you need to walk down. So we're starting out with our lick that sounds like this. So we're doing very minimal harmony underneath this and letting the arrangement build. So we're going to start, our first melody note is a G, and we're going to play that on the 3rd fret of our E string, but we're going to harmonize this with an E underneath. So it'll be the 4th fret of your C string and the 3rd fret of your E string. So we get this nice third here to insinuate C major chord, which is really what's happening. We're gonna hit that once, and then our next melody note, this goes up a perfect fourth. If you ever have trouble remembering intervals, remember, Here Comes the Bride is the perfect fourth interval. Do da da da. So we have our C major chord, and then we're just gonna go up to a C on the third fret of our A string. And you can do this one of two ways. You can just collapse the first finger and play a partial bar, giving us a full C major chord here, or you can hop the first finger over, which I prefer. I just get a slightly better sound than with a bar. I always prefer individual fingers, but experiment and see what fingering works for you. And then we're just gonna fill a little bit of space because this is a rather sparse melody. So in measure 6, as we hit this third fret, we're gonna go down and just build up our chord. We're gonna hit an open C string, hammer onto the second fret, that's a D, and then an open E. So we're getting the sound of that C major chord. Let's listen to those first two measures. And then remember those last three notes, the C, D, and E, we want to keep kind of in the background. They're just accompaniment. Listen, this is going to be louder. And we go right back to the C major voicing, the fourth fret of our C string and the third fret of our E string. And then our melody goes, right? We're all familiar with that. So we play this. Then our next melody note, use your pinky to grab the D on the fifth fret of your A string. And then the second fret of our A string, the B there, and resolving back to the C, much as we did before. So let's listen to that. And then we're gonna have another little filler lick in here. And what is that lick? So as we hit the C on beat 1, we're gonna hit the open C again. But then instead of hammering on a D, we're just gonna change things a little bit. So we try something new. We're gonna play an E and hammer on an F, which is walking us back up to that G. So let's listen to the second lick here, and then we'll listen to both of them together. All right, let's listen to the first 4 measures now and see how that sounds. And since this isn't a terribly hard arrangement, this is a great time to be thinking about keeping your left hand very legato, keeping those notes down, especially the melody notes, as long as possible to give us a nice, smooth sound. All right, so let's look at the next 4 measures and then we'll piece this entire section together. So we start out again on our little C major dyad here. Up to the C again, but then we're now going to an F chord, and our F is going to be the 8th fret of our A string. And as you're reaching your pinky up there, get a bar across the 5th fret because we're going to use an F major chord that's 5, 5, 5, 8. Just our C major chord slid on up. So we get, so make sure you're getting that bar in place when you have time. You're just going to slide this down. Our melody is 7, 5. So we get, and we're gonna do a little pull off there. Just pull your finger slightly to the side. And we're going down to a C major chord. I use my pinky for this. You could use your ring finger as well, but you don't wanna use your first finger because of what's coming up. But let's listen to that little section getting to the F. So we get, and then we're coming down, we're gonna play a partial G7th chord. All right, so here's our C that we're on. We're gonna strum our C all the way through. And then we're just gonna play the 1st fret of our E string and the 2nd fret of our A string, right? Here's our full G7th chord. We're just playing a little piece of it. And then up to the C on the 3rd fret. We're gonna end this little section on a G7th chord, open 5, 7, 5. So let's listen to those last 4 bars of this first A section. We're just gonna tack on 2 G's on the end. That's gonna act as our turnaround. So now let's try the first 8 measures of this A section together. 1, 2, 1, 2. The next 4 measures bring us back to our main theme. We'll play exactly the same thing, except every time that we come back to this C, we're going to strum a full chord this time, just to bring a little bit of something different into this recapitulation of the main theme. And strum, and strum. And then things change a little bit here. We're gonna go and play just our G by itself, the 3rd fret of our E string, and then we're gonna walk our way up to this G major chord that we're going to. So 3rd fret of our E string, and then 5-3, E string, A string, that's an A and a C. So we get, and then we're gonna move that on up to 8-7. It's part of our C major chord still. We're playing C, C6, C major, which is bringing us up to a G major chord. We're gonna play that as skipping the G string for a moment, bar across the 7th fret, and then we get the 10th fret. This is just like we did in the introduction to the tune. So let's listen to that walk up to the G chord though. And we're finally at that as we walk up our dyads going up. And then we go immediate to an A minor chord, again, leaving out the G string, 9, 8, 7. It's just like an E minor chord, slid on up, right? And we're gonna play that. And then just hit the 8th fret, the C on our E string by itself. So we go from G, just 1 strum, to that C, and then open A, which gives us time to shift down to our G7th chord that we already used. Open 5, 7, 5. And then we're just gonna add an E to that. So we have our G7th, we're really adding an E, making it a G13th, and resolve it to C. So let's listen to that little line right there, walking up to the G and back on down. And we're gonna add this little lick on the end, just adding the 6th fret of our E string and then the 7th fret of our A string, alluding to a C7th chord, because this B section is bringing us somewhere else. So let's try those last 8 measures of the 2nd A section together. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that C7th chord brings us to our B section. And where does C7th usually lead? Go to F. We're modulating to the 4 chord for just a moment here. The bridge of this tune is actually quite a bit of fun. It goes from F to D minor for a second, alludes to going back to C, but then it goes to A major. So let's see everything that's happening here. The first 4 measures are gonna sound like this. A lot of this is voicings that we know. We're starting on that F major chord we already used, 5, 5, 5, 8. And then again, the lick after that, 7, 5, E, D. It's leading us someplace different this time. Instead of resolving back to a C, we're now going to a D minor chord. Right? And our A string is our melody note. So we're gonna strum a D minor chord and then just strum that again. So our first 2 measures of the bridge sound like this. We go to a G7th chord, regular old plain vanilla G7th. And then we're gonna walk this up to C major, open 4, 3, 3. And then we're gonna add the D on the 5th fret. And then to that G7th voicing that we've been using throughout, open 5, 7, 5. So listen to these first 4 measures of the bridge section again. We go back to the F after this. Really, it repeats itself with just a slight difference at the end. So our second bit of the bridge sounds like this. Same thing, but now And now we're in A major. We've modulated to the 6th chord, but a major version of it. So we get F the same and walk it down, D minor, and then we go to A major, 2, 1, open, open, and then an E 7th with a flat 9. What's that mean? Well, everyone put down your E chord, your E 7th chord, and all we're gonna do is add an E sharp, or what we can call an F, to that on the 1st fret of our E string. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 1, 2. That's our E7 flat 9. And then a melody note, we're gonna bring the pinky up to the 4th fret here to get the C sharp. And then resolve it to A major, keeping that pinky where it's at. So let's listen to that 2nd line, then we'll try the first 8 together. And now A. All right, let's try the first 8 measures of the B section together. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, after this, we've now established that we are in the key of A for a moment here. We've stepped outside, so we're gonna go up to a big old A major chord. Again, skipping the G string, 9, 9, 7. This is just like your D chord all the way down here, but we're moving it on up, 9, 9, 7. And then we're going to add the F sharp, the 9th fret of our A string, and right back to the 7th. So let's listen to this line here so we can get a feel for it. All right, so we have that A up front. And then we're going down to a B minor chord. Now this is just your G minor. You've been playing forever, moved on up. So skip the G string again, 6, 7, 5. That's a B minor chord. And then we're gonna bring it down the 2nd bit of the measure and play that C sharp on the 4th fret. Let's listen to those first 2 measures. All right, and then we're gonna place your pinky on the 7th fret of the A string. Now we're gonna slide down in notes. We're gonna go 7, 6, and then down to the 5th fret, articulate that, and slide down. So we get, so here's our first couple measures. And then we're on that C, and it's up top, but we're going to play an E 7th chord here. 1, 2, open, 4, and then resolve it down to the B on the 2nd fret. All right, just get that nice suspension, and then down. And then let's continue on. So we're gonna try an A again, but we're not gonna strum the A string here. Our melody note is an E. What we've done here is actually dropped the melody down an octave. It would generally be all the way up here, but then we start to run out of notes on uke pretty fast. So sometimes we need to move the melody down. So we have 2, 1, open, and then 2, 4 on the E string, F sharp, G sharp. And then we're just gonna lift up your pinky and strum through, and this is now an F sharp minor chord. 2, 1, 2, open. Add the pinky on the 4th fret of your A string. And then just release the ring finger. And now it's an A major chord for the next measure. So we have A major, and then B 7th, 2, 3, 2, 2. We need to use this bar chord voicing because our melody note is this E. And then what's notated on the page here is a B 7th and then open A. If you're on high G, that A that we need is right here on the G string. I'd probably play it that way if I was on high G. But this way works for both tunings. And then we come down, and this is really an E 7th chord, but we're setting it up kind of awkwardly. So we're going 4, 2 on our C string and E string, and then 2 open on the C string and E string. We get tension, and then we're on It's really an E7th chord here. So let's listen to that second little bit, and then we'll try these next 8 bars together. So it sounds like this. Let's try those next 8 together. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, and here's our last 8 bars of the bridge of this tune. So we're starting on our A major chord again. 2, 1, open. Strum that once, only going up to the E string. And then drop off your first finger. We're gonna make it an A minor chord. And then hammer on that first finger to the first fret of your E string. So it sounds like this. We get this nice dark sound. And then we're going up to that little C major partial voicing we've been using throughout, the E on the 4th fret of our C string and the G on the 3rd fret of our E string. So we get, and then down to the 4th fret, we're just gonna pluck that one, the 4th fret of our C string, that E, and walk this down. So here's our little pattern. This is all in the C and E string. So we get 5, 3, nice dissonance between the F and the G. And then we go down to 3, 2, and then 2, 1. So let's listen to this, measure 39. And then just hit the D on the end, and then we have open E, open C. Let's listen to this entire measure, because this is where things start getting a little wonky. Good, and let's continue on. So now we're going back to A minor. So we're in A minor here now. 2, open, open. We're gonna leave the A string out. And we're gonna pluck this, and then pluck the E string, and then add that on the 2nd fret, that F sharp of the E string. And then we're gonna play 2 and 3 on the C string and the E string, and that's a G5 chord. We're playing a G and a D, just the root and 5th without any of the fun stuff in there, any of our leading tones. And then we're going to finally add that F, that 7th to it. So we get, and then C and E together. It's just a C major chord. So let's listen to that little resolution. And then we finally have 16th notes for really the first time in this tune, a different rhythm going on. We're going to go on the C string, 4, 3, 1, 3. And right back to 4. And then G on the 3rd fret here. So let's listen to that in context of these 4 measures. We get, all right, and now let's listen to that last 8 measure phrase in the bridge, and then we'll try it together. Let's give that a shot. 1, 2, 1, 2. Then at this, it says DS al coda, which means go back to the sign until you see the coda, and then we'll find the ending. So the sign is at measure 5, right where the main theme starts, and we're going to repeat the entire main theme exactly as it was until we get to measure 18. Measure 18, we play that G to A minor. We have that measure, and then we jump to the coda, the end of the tune. So after we get to this G, instead of resolving down as we did before, we're gonna go up to the 12th fret with our pinky, 12th fret of the A string to get an A up there. And then just hit your C string and E string. You should already have these notes down, the A and the C on the 9th and 8th fret of your C and E string. So we get, And then we're gonna walk it on down. So again, these are just harmonized notes. So we have all on the E string and the A string. We have 12, 10, 10, 8. Just move that shape down 2 frets. 8, 7, it's a C major chord. And then 7, 5, and then end on a C major chord. So I'm gonna start at measure 18 and go to the coda, and then we'll try that much together. So it's gonna sound like this. Let's try that last little bit together. 1, 2, 1, 2. Remember to take your time with this arrangement and try your best to have a nice legato left hand to let those notes really sing out. This is not a fast tune. There are not a lot of complicated chords in here, although the bridge does jump around a little bit. So it gives you plenty of time to focus on creating a great and beautiful sound out of the instrument.
All right, guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a ton of fun. This is a timeless song. It's one of those songs that's a great one to keep in your back pocket, to tuck into that repertoire. Because, hey, you never know when someone's going to ask you to perform it while they walk down the aisle. Now, I want to give you guys a friendly reminder that if you want to get the tabs to print off, keep for your records, that was available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for Bridal Chorus, or you can type Here Comes the Bride. That'll pull up the page as well. Now, also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play. You can watch that tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz to make learning this song that much easier. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll catch you in the next lesson. Take care.